Most weight loss plans are one size fits all, not taking into account each person's individual needs. Noom is here to change that. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain. But it also takes into account your unique biological factors, which also affect weight loss success. The program helps you understand the science behind your eating choices and why you have cravings. Everyone's journey is different, so your daily lessons are personalized to you and your goals. One of the great things about Noom is that it's nourishing instead of restrictive. They focus on progress instead of perfection. You don't have to give up carbs, or anything for that matter. Have cravings? Food FOMO? Noom can help you lose weight while still enjoying your favorite foods. To date, Noom has helped more than 5.2 million people lose weight. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here is your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. We have a special guest today. She is a visionary, co-founder of Icon Maker, where she and her partners have propelled coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs to achieve 6- and 7-figure successes through high-margin programs and strategic podcasts. With over $3 million in client sales since 2023, her leadership is transformative. Before entering the business world, she spent 2 decades as a Canadian television anchor and executive at the Weather Channel. Today, she's here to share invaluable insights on scaling businesses and maximizing podcasting effectiveness. I'm sorry, that's just her bio. But we're going to talk about something in reference to podcasting. All of us who are in that podcast space or entrepreneurship or whatever it is, there's some other things that we have to deal with in this climate, which is adjusting to change. So a lot of us that are getting into podcasting, you're changing your mindset. You're changing how you view life. So this person, this magnificent person, this wonderful person is going to talk about dealing with change. I thank you very much for coming onto the show, Sheryl. Now, I'm not going to butcher your last name. I've been practicing it for the last three days. I even asked my wife how to say it. Let's do the podcast. Other shows. And can you please say your last name?
If you have any French Canadian blood in you, then you would be pronouncing it as Plouffe.
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 Plouffe. I was just
Cheryl
wondering.
Plouffe. Yeah.
Thank you.
But barring that, I'm not too. I certainly don't judge anybody who pronounces it with more of an English accent. That's for sure. But yeah, Cheryl Plouffe. And sometimes people hear my last name, they go, "Oh, that just sounds so soft. It just sounds so gentle."
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like, yeah, I guess it kind of does. But great to be with you. I'm excited for our conversation. Change. Gosh, look at the world we live in. We're
Right.
just surrounded by it. So I think it's an important conversation,
Mhm.
especially for people that are going through any number of different kinds of changes that they are experiencing, whether personal or professional. And I certainly have had my own fair share of decisions to make
Right.
along the journey.
Right. So let's talk about change just a little bit, and something you had mentioned in the green room, right? Of just how people might not uh embrace something as simple as AI. We say it's simple, right? But people are not embracing that term, artificial intelligence. So how would you encourage someone to even embrace that idea?
Well, I think that it's one of those things where when you see something that is coming in the forefront that
Mhm.
is going to be massively transformative,
Mhm.
isn't going anywhere, we need to learn to adapt.
Mhm.
It gets to a point where the evidence is there that this is not just a trend, it's not a
Mhm.
fad. When something is so transformative, the experts and the pundits and such are saying that, this is bigger than the actual internet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Mm-hmm.
think about
Mm-hmm.
how transformative the internet was, and I am old enough to say that I do remember a time when there was no internet, um, and the changes that that has brought on. Now, to think of AI as being something even bigger than that,
Mm-hmm.
how can you deny that? How
Mm-hmm.
can you put your head in the sand around that? It's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where we have to adjust to the new technologies that are coming. Now, there are obviously ethical considerations, and people are, you know, talking about those things.
Right.
But, in terms of change, I actually had a person, I think I made a post on my Facebook recently asking if there was any interest in, I was putting something together like an AI driven video strategy. And I just
Mm-hmm.
had put out a hand raising post who was
Mm-hmm.
interested to know about this strategy, because I do a lot of trainings and things of that nature. And I had so many people respond, me,
Mm.
like that but one person who responded and said, I don't believe in this. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, right. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just responded and said, you're absolutely entitled to your own opinion. And
Right.
so good luck to you, right? I mean, I have no ill will, obviously, toward people who are in denial of the change that's coming, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't, I just don't think it's
Hmm.
wise at this stage, Maurice, to put your head in the sand and say that, oh, I don't believe in it. It's not coming. It is coming. It is here. And we have to adapt to that.
So, Cheryl, here's my question. Anyone that has that idea, I always bring to them, you don't think you've been using AI before today? When you think about it, autocorrect, any type of, anything along those lines has already been here. So, why would you be adverse to change if it's already been utilized or you've been utilizing it all along? Anything has had some type of background intelligence connected to it. Your vehicle. How many years has a car? So
Right.
simple
Yeah.
everyday things. You've already been utilizing it, so now it's being pushed in your face. Now you're pushing back against it. So I think those type of things we need to consider. So have you even spoken to someone just from that simple term of you use it already?
I haven't had a lot of conversations with people about that, but to
Mm-hmm.
your point, you're 100% correct. We have been using AI. AI has been baked in to some of the tools that we've already been using long before it became publicly, it skyrocketed
Mm-hmm.
publicly. And what would that have been? 2022,
Mm-hmm.
I suppose. Late 2022 is when it became more common knowledge and became more accessible,
Mm-hmm.
through ChatGPT and chatbots and that sort of thing. But I think it's because people don't have an understanding that AI has been around for a long time. Like, it's something that's
Yes.
been worked on for decades.
Right.
It's only now that it's become something that's in front of you. Even
Right.
people who are using, Jasper, for
Mm-hmm.
example, as the
Mm-hmm.
tool, prior, and I had been using Jasper, I think, a little bit here and there prior to November 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come later to realize, oh, it was AI that was driving all of that. Oh, that's why that tool was so amazing.
Right.
But I think part of it is educating yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is diving in. I was actually listening to someone recently on I think it was like a TED Talk sort of
Mm-hmm.
style video, talking about what is the future. Well,
Mm-hmm.
one is that we need to seek the truth. One is we need to learn AI. You
Right.
cannot put your head in the sand anymore. And I think that's true, right? Educate yourself as to what's going on so that you
Mm-hmm.
can make an educated decision.
So, as we're talking about embracing this AI, how do you see it changing entrepreneurship or even just the 9 to 5 space? And how should we utilize that as we continue to try to grow, and not push back against it? And I'm going to use this as an example. I listened to my daughter the other day. She's a psychology, forensic psychology major. She's in grad school. And they had a study talking about the I Robot movie by Will Smith. And people are really afraid of that robot taking their jobs and all that type of stuff. But how should we embrace that in our entrepreneur journey or our 9 to 5? How should we even embrace that?
Well, first of all, I mean, I do think it will be disruptive to
Hmm.
certain industries. There's no doubt about that. But just like if you look at history and if you look at I mean, think of anything, right? The Industrial Revolution or any
Right,
other
right.
significant changes that have happened in human history. Um, yes, it's disruptive, but then new opportunities come about as a result of
Mm,
that. And
mm,
so I think that's how we have to look at this. For me personally, how I'm utilizing it at Icon Maker with regard to our program is
mm-hmm,
I'm using it operationally.
mm-hmm,
So I'm using it predominantly at this moment to manage the output of done for you services and assets that we create on behalf of our clients, because that's the makeup of our program.
right.
Our program happens to have a lot of done for you elements. Well, in order for me and us and our small team to be able to
Mm-hmm,
keep up with that, we rely on AI to be the thinking partner. It is largely my thinking partner.
mm-hmm,
And also the custom tools that I've created with AI help me to do massive output. And
mm-hmm.
it is no exaggeration to say that I have 400x'd my productivity as a result of it. And I have reduced what would have taken weeks and months
Right.
into days and hours.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, think about the value of your time, and whether you are an entrepreneur now or you
mm-hmm.
are thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, you have to value your time. I'm trying to be much more mindful of guarding my time.
Hmm.
And it's not easy. I admit that I'm not the best at it yet, but it's something I work on every day, to try to guard my time, because
Mhm.
that's what is most valuable. So AI is a great, great tool to help you to do that.
So, how should we, in general, like I said, we're using the foundation for this episode for AI, but overall, because a lot of people don't like change, they want to go revert back to yesterday. And I'll use my aunt as an example. She was supposed to go in for cataract surgery, and they won't operate on her because her blood pressure won't come down. She's not understanding the medical terms right now. She's not understanding how medicine is practiced right now. So she's a little apprehensive. So now her anxiety is through the roof and can't get the medical attention. So how can we calm ourselves down, embrace change, and understand it's inevitable to some degree, and things like AI or medicine or education has brought us a little further along than we were maybe 10 years ago. So how should we embrace something like that?
I think it stems from having knowledge, yes, but also skill.
Mhm.
When something is scary to you, it's probably because you don't have an understanding of what it is. That's probably what it is, right?
Mhm.
So if you have a better understanding of the thing you're afraid of,
Mhm.
it becomes less scary. So for a lot of people who are maybe apprehensive, and we'll use AI as the example, it could
Mhm.
be anything in life, that you take a step back and say, well, maybe I should lean into this thing and learn a little bit more about it and read, you know, um, qualified articles on the topic. I would just say like good articles, but qualified people that we can trust. But be able to educate yourself a little bit more on the subject,
Mhm.
then the topic becomes a little less scary,
Mm.
because now we have some understanding. But I think also skill. Using AI as an example, when it first came out, I didn't, obviously, like everybody, we were all new to it, did
Right.
not know anything about anything, but I just started using it, and I think that's been a theme throughout my entire life since I was a teenager. I
Mm.
started on television when I was 18 years old.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing when I was 18. They just put me in front of a camera and I just learned and I just did it on the job. But I think it's part of that as well. It's the same thing with AI or anything that you might be fearful of or
Mhm.
you have apprehension around. Is just lean into it, learn more about it, try it, use it, build some level of skill
Mhm.
around it. And I think you'll find that, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. That
Mhm.
wasn't so scary. Or the thing I thought about it is not true, because now I've been utilizing it and I
Right.
see its full capability. So I think it's part education and part skill.
So you stated that you've been in that industry since the age of 18, right? You've been in front of the camera, you've been behind the camera, you've done a lot of different things since the age of 18. And some of that, when we're that age, we feel invincible. We feel like we can do a little bit of anything. We can go skydiving. We could, like all these crazy things at 18. So do you feel as though you've kept that fearlessness up to where you are today. Has that propelled you and even helped you to embrace change?
Yes, I think so. I think I've always felt a need or a desire to want to face my fears.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that, I think, through my entire professional life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, in a variety of different capacities, even starting my own business. I mean, that's scary.
Yeah.
Leaving a profession that is, for the most part, a coveted position on
Mm-hmm.
national television is something that's not easy to walk away from. It took me 4 years, Maurice, to walk away from it,
Mm.
because I did love it. But the problem was I was seeing the changes. I was seeing kind of the writing on the wall, and I
Right.
knew there was a nudge inside of me. It was speaking to me to go to that next step. And wherever that nudge comes from,
Mm-hmm.
I believe it comes from God, but
Mm-hmm.
the nudge was there.
Right.
And so I couldn't deny it any longer, but it did take me several years to find a find enough courage to do it. So, but I have always faced my fears.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is interesting that in that question is that just recently I've been thinking about competitiveness. That is
Mm.
something I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have lost a little bit of and have been thinking a little
Mm.
bit more about recently. I used to have, when I was younger, I think I had a much more competitive spirit. And over the course of maturing and just, becoming a mother and other things, I wonder if I've lost that competitive spirit. And I think that we can all use a good dose of that to some degree.
Right. Right.
I think I'm more, I don't know if complacent is the right word, but I'm
Mm.
just more comfortable, I think. And
Yeah.
now that raring, like
Right.
competitive, like fire lioness type of person, who used to be very much present, is not really quite as predominant in my spirit today. And I
Mm.
think I could probably use a little bit of that today.
Um, I hear what you're saying because a lot of times, like you said, you don't want to use the word complacent, but we could. We can get comfortable in our space, especially if we're on cruise control. So why should I compete? Why should I look at someone else, if you will, because that's part of competitive space. But a lot of times we don't want to look at in the mirror to see our deficiencies as well. So how would someone deal with that? Because if in order for me to be competitive, I might have to compare myself to someone else, and now I'm trying to copy them because they appear to be a little further ahead than myself. So how do I stay competitive but stay true to me in that space?
Yeah, I think it's awareness. I think it's self-awareness, and really being confident in who you are and what you believe and what you want out of life. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it is stemming from self-awareness and understanding who you are. Sometimes when you're, well, certainly I didn't have self-awareness when I was younger. I didn't even, despite moving through, and becoming a TV host and then becoming a national TV host before
Mm-hmm.
I was 30, I had very low self-esteem, I think, looking back on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so thankfully, over the course of time, I think I built up self-esteem, and it was stemmed from self-awareness about
Mm-hmm.
who I am. But I still think that's a journey. I
Mm-hmm.
still don't think I have that fully dialed in. I still
Mm-hmm.
have those conversations in my own head about who are you and what do you want and believe, and I think that's just a process that you have to go through
Mm-hmm.
as you grow and as you mature. I don't think you ever I don't think you ever have it fully figured out,
Mm-hmm.
but you
Mm-hmm.
can, I think, increase the level of self-awareness that you have.
So you're stating that, hey, Cheryl, as you look in the mirror, sure, do we really have it all together? Do we really have the confidence? Do we have the self esteem? Do we have all that, right? And I deal with that with myself. But my question is that okay?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I just think that's the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? Yeah, 100%. I think that's natural, normal. I think it's the human condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
To not have it all figured out and to still have some semblance of self-doubt and indecision and not knowing and what should I do and trying to make the best decision in the moment, right? I think that's totally natural. And imagine a world if we did have it all figured out.
Mhm.
It would
Mhm.
be a pretty bland world, right? So, uh, I guess in that sense, it's good that we have some sense of that or some level of of self-doubt a little bit. But
Mhm.
it's something you just work on. I think you have to go inside. I think taking time for yourself, and a lot of people talk about self-care, and I don't have a tendency to talk a lot about self-care, but it is something that I think we ought to do, is to take
Mhm.
time in a world that's so busy. It's like go, 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 go,
Right.
go. I try my best to take time, and I'll recognize it in myself when I need a break.
Mhm.
I'm able to self-regulate myself. Like, I will work hard, believe me. My
Mhm.
husband will tell you, this girl works. But at the same time, I will have enough self-awareness to be able to know when and recognize when I do need to take a step back and take some time for myself. Because
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur and as someone who's self-employed, you are your own boss.
Right.
You have your no one's telling you when to work, how to do, what to do, when to clock in and when to clock out. You
Right.
have to self-regulate that for your own self.
And I ask that because you hear a lot of people say, "Hey, you have to know where you're going. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have this checklist, and you have to go pop, 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 pop." So I think that's why I asked, "Is it okay?" Because sometimes we don't give ourselves that space, that little bit of rope, that mercy, that whatever it is, in order for us to move forward. Because sometimes we do have to take a moment, take a breath, enjoy walking through the tulips barefoot, whatever it is,
Yes.
because sometimes we don't take the moment to just enjoy life because we're so, as you say, we're so much on the go. So that's why I asked that question because a lot of times that's not acceptable depending on who you speak to.
Yeah, I think it's acceptable for sure. My son is 16. Our son is 16, and he is, typical 16-year-old, right? And I'll say to him, "Hey," I'll say, "Oh, Brody, look at the stars. Look at the stars tonight." And he'll be like, "Yeah, mom. Okay, the stars. Like what? So big deal." Or, we'll be out somewhere and I'll go, "Look at this purple flower coming out of the ground in the spring. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't that something? Isn't that miraculous?"
Right.
And he'll just go, "It's a flower, mom." It's perspective, right?
Right,
When you're
right.
when you're 16, it's like, oh, big deal. It's a flower coming out of the ground or a star in the sky. But I think as you get older,
Mm-hmm.
you start to appreciate what you come to realize is pretty miraculous, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who is fascinated by space. I will watch all the rocket launches and that shuttle thing that went to space
Oh
and
yeah.
then came back and they grabbed it with the chopsticks. Okay. I thought my mind was going to explode, right? It's things like that I just find absolutely fascinating, but
Mm-hmm.
to not to everyone. And
Right.
so I think it's just perspective, and maybe it comes with age and just
Mm-hmm.
experience, but you start to realize like there's some things around you that you took for granted before that you realize, well, that's actually really miraculous
Right.
that this happens or that happens. And so I don't know, I think it's natural, but I think ultimately it's just about perspective and where you are in life.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, Cheryl, one, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. And for those of us who are struggling with that perspective, being okay with who we are, and understanding that change is going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to accept it overnight. So, if they need to speak to someone like you, that where they need that encouragement, where can they find you and talk to you about that?
Sure. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, right? You
Hmm.
can send me a DM and say that you heard me on the show. That's totally fine. You can do that. You can also go to my website, CherylPlouffe.com. It is mostly related to business and what I
Hmm.
do with Icon Maker. And, we're helping entrepreneurs to launch seven-figure businesses. And I
Hmm.
also help people with six-figure businesses as well,
Hmm.
when it comes to helping them create a scalable growth system to acquire clients,
Hmm.
specifically in the coaching industry. So you can reach me at CherylPlouffe.com, send me a message, say you heard me on the show, and I would love to meet with you on social and have a chat.
Cool, cool. I appreciate that. Of course, all that information will be in the show notes. But Cheryl, before I let you go, I gotta ask you my world famous question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Ah, if I think about my life,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've always chosen forks in the road.
Okay.
That
Okay.
seems to be the path. Yes.
Okay. Any particular reason why besides that? Or a
I
little
think it.
deeper?
Well, I think the fork in the road is really what life is all about.
Okay.
You're faced with decisions every single day, whether to do this or to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, just if I think about forks in the road in my own life and decisions that I've made that led me down certain paths, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's just been the repetitive pattern. So
Mm.
for me, it feels like forks in the road, and there will be more to come,
Right.
right? That's just life. It's decision after decision after decision. But for me, it feels like that fork in the road. And sometimes you don't pick the right path,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or you think you didn't pick the right path, but it turns out that it was the right path because it was the lesson you needed to learn in order to then
Ah.
choose the right path, right? So
Right.
nothing is there are really, frankly, probably no wrong decisions. You
Right.
learn something from every path that you take.
Right. So I'm enjoying that answer. So I do have one more question for you, right?
Sure.
So if you had to choose anyone in the world, dead or alive, to do a duet with, who would that person be?
Like a singing duet?
Yes.
Oh, it's Prince for sure.
Prince.
Yeah, it's Prince.
Why
So
Prince?
you don't know this about me yet, Maurice. I'm a huge Prince fan.
Really?
Yes, I've been a Prince fan since I was 12. And quick story, fun story. I so 2004,
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada, sold out show at the Air Canada Centre, and this girl got on stage and danced with Prince.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
yes, it was incredible. Yes. But now I've seen him many,
Ah,
many, many times in concert. I'm a huge fan, and so yeah, it would definitely be Prince.
nice. I mean, and the fact that you didn't even blink, you like it was like, Maurice, that's a no-brainer. That's an easy question.
No brainer.
So, but I thank you very much for coming on the show. I thank you for being a good sport with, answering those questions.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a really pleasant conversation, and I really appreciate you and the thoughtful questions that you've asked.
Cool, cool. I appreciate that. I'm very thankful for that. Thank you. And of
Thank
course, thank you for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. And I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?